Your growth strategy isn't failing because you're executing it wrong. It's failing because it's built on a paradigm that no longer matches reality. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The harder you execute on an outdated model, the further behind you fall. I'm going to show you why the most disciplined, best-resourced teams are getting beaten by smaller players who think differently. And more importantly, I'm giving you the exact framework to shift your strategic paradigm before your competition does. I'm with change strategists, and we work with leaders who are done with incremental thinking. In the next 10 minutes, you're getting 3 things. First, the real reason traditional growth models create blind spots. Second, a visual framework you can take into your next strategy session. And third, a simple diagnostic to identify if you're operating on yesterday's paradigm. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right but still hitting invisible ceilings, this explains why. Let's disrupt some assumptions. But first, a question. What happens when you master the rules of a game that's no longer being played? Here's what's happening. Most growth strategies are still built on paradigms from a different era, an era where markets moved predictably, competitive advantages lasted decades, and 5-year plans actually meant something. The traditional model goes like this. Analyze the past, predict the future, build a detailed plan, execute with discipline, measure results, optimize, repeat. And that model? It worked brilliantly when change was gradual and competitive landscapes were stable. But think about what's shifted. Markets now reward speed over perfection. Customer expectations evolve faster than planning cycles. Competitive threats emerge from adjacent industries overnight. The rules change mid-game. So here's the painful irony. The more precisely you execute a strategy built on old assumptions, the more efficiently you're moving in the wrong direction. You're optimizing for a game that's already evolved. And this creates a specific kind of blindness. You're not failing because you lack discipline or resources. You're failing because your strategic paradigm, the fundamental way you think about growth, hasn't evolved with the market. Picture this scenario. Imagine a team that does everything by the book. Deep market analysis, detailed competitive positioning, phased rollout plans, quarterly optimization reviews. They're executing flawlessly on a model that assumes tomorrow looks like yesterday. Meanwhile, someone else enters the space with a completely different mental model. They don't try to predict. They build to adapt. They don't plan for stability. They design for change. They don't optimize existing advantages. They create new paradigms. The difference isn't in execution quality. It's in the fundamental thinking that shapes the strategy itself. This is why you see established players with massive advantages getting disrupted by smaller competitors. It's not about resources. It's about paradigms. Quick question. Have you seen this in your industry? Drop a comment with the blind spot you're noticing. I read every response. So if the old model is broken, what's the alternative? Let me show you the framework. I call this the paradigm shift framework, and it's built on a simple contrast. On one side, the old strategic paradigm. On the other, the paradigm that's actually winning today. Old paradigm, strategy as prediction. You analyze, forecast, and build plans based on where you think the market is heading. New paradigm, strategy as sensing. You build systems to detect and respond to change faster than you can predict it. The mental shift. Stop trying to be right about the future. Start building the capacity to adapt to whatever future emerges. Old paradigm. Competitive advantage as position. You find a defensible position in the market and protect it. New paradigm. Competitive advantage as momentum. You create advantage through continuous repositioning faster than competitors can respond. The mental shift. Your advantage isn't where you are. It's how quickly you can move. Old paradigm. Growth as linear expansion. You scale what's working through optimized execution. New paradigm. Growth as portfolio experimentation. You run multiple small experiments, kill what doesn't work, and scale what does. The mental shift. Don't put all resources behind one plan. Spread intelligent bets and reallocate based on learning. Old paradigm. Value creation through efficiency. You win by doing things better, faster, cheaper, more optimized. New paradigm. Value creation through relevance. You win by doing different things that match evolving needs. The mental shift. Efficiency optimizes existing value. Relevance creates new value. Now here's what makes this powerful. These aren't just philosophical differences. They change everything about how you actually build and execute. When you shift from prediction to sensing, you build different organizational capabilities. Instead of 5-year plans, you create rapid feedback loops. When you shift from position to momentum, you measure different things. Instead of market share, you track speed of iteration. When you shift from linear growth to portfolio experimentation, you resource differently. Instead of big bets, you fund learning. And when you shift from efficiency to relevance, you innovate differently. Instead of incremental improvements, you explore adjacent possibilities. The framework isn't about abandoning discipline. It's about directing that discipline toward paradigms that match today's reality. Now the uncomfortable part. How do you know which paradigm you're actually operating from? Here's a simple diagnostic. Answer honestly. When your strategy doesn't deliver expected results, what's your first response? If it's, we need better execution, you're in the old paradigm. If it's what assumptions need to change, you're shifting toward the new one. How long do your strategic planning cycles take? If you're building annual or multi-year detailed plans, old paradigm. If you're running quarterly strategy sprints with continuous adjustment, new paradigm. Where do you source strategic insights? If primarily from industry reports and historical data, old paradigm. If you're combining weak signals, adjacent industry patterns, and rapid customer feedback, new paradigm. How do you allocate resources for growth? If you're fully funding initiatives based on projected ROI, old paradigm. If you're portfolio funding with staged investment based on validated learning, new paradigm. What gets celebrated in your culture? If it's hitting plan, old paradigm. If it's learning speed and adaptive capacity, new paradigm. Here's what matters about this diagnostic. Most organizations aren't purely in one paradigm or the other. You're in transition. And that transition is exactly where the opportunity lives. The question isn't whether your current approach has worked. It's whether it's still the optimal paradigm for the market you're actually in. Because here's the reality. The market isn't going to slow down to match your strategic paradigm. You have to evolve your paradigm to match the market's pace. And the leaders who make this shift first, they don't just survive disruption, they create it. If this is shifting how you think about strategy, hit that like button and comment with the biggest paradigm shift your industry needs right now. And subscribe, we're doing a whole series on strategic paradigms. Let me leave you with this. The most dangerous position in strategy isn't being wrong. It's being right about the wrong paradigm. You can execute flawlessly on outdated thinking and still fall behind. Or you can shift your fundamental paradigm and unlock competitive advantages you didn't know existed. The framework I showed you today, sensing over prediction, momentum over position, experimentation over linear growth, relevance over efficiency, these aren't just concepts. They're the foundation for building strategies that match the markets we're actually in. At Change Strategists, this is what we do. We work with leaders who recognize that their biggest competitive advantage isn't better execution on old models. It's fundamentally reimagining the models themselves. If you want to go deeper on this framework, We've built a complete diagnostic tool and implementation guide. Link is in the description. It'll walk you through applying these paradigm shifts to your specific strategic challenges. The market rewards those who see what others miss. And right now, what most are missing is that the game itself has changed. So here's my challenge. Take this framework into your next strategy conversation. Ask which paradigm you're operating from, and be willing to disrupt your own assumptions before someone else disrupts your market position. Drop a comment with the biggest strategic blind spot in your industry. Share this with a leader who needs to hear it. Subscribe for the next video where we're breaking down how to build sensing systems into your strategy. Let's disrupt some paradigms.